Welcome back, everybody. Week 14, cashing points. We are in December. There's a massive storm outside of my house. It's freezing cold here in Denver. I hope everybody's doing well wherever you're at in the world. Listening to the show. Appreciate you guys. Scott, Jake, full crew here. What's going on, guys?
What's up? Why aren't you parallel to us? Why are you so much higher than us? It has this subconscious effect that you're superior to us.
I mean, we all know that, though. I mean, come on. Let's see if I can adjust it. Jake, what's going on, man?
Not much. I'm doing pretty good. I had the fire alarm in my apartment complex malfunction each of the last 2 nights, so I'm a little sleep deprived. But I mean, the slate's got me fired up. If I'm on mute for an extended period of time, probably because our fire alarm's going off. But yeah, no, I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to talk some ball with you and Scott.
See, that's when you just unplug it. You just straight up like you unplug it. You do what you need to do to get the beeping to stop. Is it one of those that like repeatedly beeps?
Well, it's not the smoke detector. Oh. It's like there's like a solo speaker that I guess is hooked up to like the building alarm system that's beeping for like 10 seconds every 30 or so minutes. It's made it very difficult to sleep.
Oh boy. Yeah, you got to unplug.
We'll get it figured out.
Well, Jake figures out his fire alarm. Hopefully, we won't have that during the show for you, man. Kind of fun slate. Pretty gross in terms of injuries, though. There's like 3 good games.
Yeah, I think don't lie to the people, Grant.
I think it's a fun slate. I really do. The injuries are what they are at this point. I mean, everybody complains about it. It is what it is. But you know what? That's what we're here for. Let's break it all down. Let's get to it. Jags at Browns. Obviously, we're waiting on Trevor Lawrence news. I don't think he's going to play. That's just my lean. Browns have been firmly at 3 all week. I will say the total is up from 30.5 or 31 on Tuesday to 33.5, as are most of the totals in the early window. A lot of the kind of weather concerns we had early in the week have subsided. Joe Flacco, I think, is going to start. We'll see on that, though, too. Amari Cooper has a concussion. Don't think he's going to play, and Denzel Ward should be back on the Brown side. Jake, I'll throw it to you first, man. This is a pretty gross game. I usually try to get the grossest game out of the way early. I don't really have too much here, and we're kind of just waiting on so much news, especially with Lawrence. Do you have anything from this game that really stands out to you?
I mean, David Njoku is a fantastic value, pretty clearly the tight end cash play on both sides. He's easy to get behind regardless of who's starting at quarterback. I think you can make a case. Elijah Moore is one of the best values of the slate. Probably agnostic of quarterback, but really you want Flacco back there. Almost 50% of Flacco's throws last week traveled beyond 10 air yards. Elijah Moore had, 1 million air yards. So, he's looking like a very strong play if Flacco's under center. And then my only other major note here was that, assuming Lawrence sits, CJ Beathard ranked top 20 of 86 qualifiers from 2017 to 2021 in tight end target rate and our running back target rate. So that could be, worth a little bit of a boost to Evan Ingram and Etienne, but Dearness Johnson's been working in a little bit, so probably more of a boost to Ingram. Outside of that, I really don't have a ton on this game.
Yeah, Jags side, I think Ingram is like, now the only guy with Kirk on IR. He's the only guy who can go over the middle. I was looking at that too with Beathard. Really, the only play to me is Scott's boy, Elijah Moore. It's Elijah Moore week, man. We waited 14 weeks to get here, Scott, but congratulations.
Yeah, CJ Beathard targeted Evan Ingram on 6 of his 14 throws. That's a 42% target share last week. But one of the Jaguars beat writers is saying he's putting at 80% that Trevor Lawrence plays. I think either way, Ingram's a strong value, only 2% projected ownership. I think Zay Jones is in play. He's like top 35 in XFP per route run. Definitely not priced like it. I think Parker Washington is maybe an even better play. He had the Christian Kirk role, right? And he's literally minimum priced. But yeah, Elijah Moore, my boy, he had the most air yards of any receiver in any game this season. He did that last week. And, this has always been the case. Like, I don't know what it is, but it takes Joe Flacco to fully unlock Elijah Moore. But, it was like the same old song and dance with Elijah, where it was like great volume, consistently getting open, inaccurate throws. I think you can make a case for Cedric Tillman as like leverage off of Elijah, because Elijah is going to be pretty chalky, where it's like, listen, he's going to play every snap, no Amari Cooper. And like, sure, Elijah got all the volume, but like the connection really wasn't there. So maybe Flacco moves in a different direction. And Njoku as well. I would like him a lot more if DTR gets the start, but he's another okay, fine play. Is he going to be everyone's cash tight end this week, Jake?
Yeah, he's projecting pretty clearly as the top tight end play. Brevin Jordan isn't projecting particularly well, which is throwing me off a little bit. I think he's a fantastic value.
Yeah, that would be my cash tight end.
That I'm with you, Scott. We'll get to the Texans, but I'm on Jordan too, and I know you were on him last week. To me, Njoku is like only in play if DTR starts. I mean, the splits with him are absolutely wild. I mean, they get a quarterback in there that can actually throw the ball downfield. Njoku is averaging 21 yards per game with Watson or Flacco under center. Just really, really low floor. If Trevor Lawrence is in play, Scott, you brought up Parker Washington. I mean, he's going to be like pretty much popping in all the optimizers, I think, if T-Law plays. But again, it's still Browns 3. I don't know. Jags obviously, just need to win a couple of their final games to make it in the playoffs, but we'll see. Lawrence has never missed a game. Just a lot of injury news we're waiting on this game. Any other angles here before we move on?
Just wanted to know that per our wide receiver coverage matchup tool, Evan Ingram has by far the best matchup of any of the Jaguars pass catchers. So another reason to like him.
Yeah, Browns have been really good against tight ends, but Ingram's one of the guys, man. I mean, he's like, he plays in the slot a ton. He's, gets some out wide stuff. They're going to move him around this week. He led the team in first read target share last week too, 28% over Ridley and Jones. So yeah, I think Ingram's really interesting, especially if Njoku ends up being chalk. All right, Rams, Ravens. Ravens are getting 7.5. Over under is 40.5. This game and the Jets game up there looks like they're going to be the two wet weather games. It'll be a little windy against Friday night, but in terms of forecast, those are the two games. Not much in terms of injury notes. Kind of a clean game. Tyler Higbee's not going to play. Puka Nacua is fine. Scott, I'll throw it to you first for your thoughts here on Rams Ravens. See you putting your headphones back on there.
What's going on, guys? Yeah. So obviously we got to talk about Kyron Williams at the top, who's looking. It's the Todd Gurley role. He's also the closest thing right now we have to Christian McCaffrey. Basically, 85 McCaffrey's production at 75% of the salary. Uber bell cow, leads in snap share, leads in red zone XFP per game. And we've been on it every single week and it hasn't burnt us once. So why not just go back to the well? Argument against him is actually Ravens are like a neutral matchup to running backs, but the implied point total for the Rams is so bad. It's 37% below their point per game average. That's definitely unideal, but I'm kind of inclined to just stick with what's working. 7,300. He's not priced like vintage Todd Gurley. He's not priced like vintage Christian McCaffrey. Also, Sean McVay in the press conference cannot stop hyping this guy up.
Yeah,
and they asked him why they let him score a touchdown in meaningless garbage time. And he's like, he's on my fantasy team. And that's legitimately how he's using him.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. I mean, and we knew this too. I mean, there was a little ramp up, but they blew out the Cardinals 2 weeks ago. Last week, he got 60 of 64 snaps. He's not going to be chalk this week. And to your point, I mean, he's like 1,500 too cheap on DK. I think he's going to be a really, really strong tournament play, Jake. Looking at some of the early ownership stuff, Kyron is, probably going to be 8 to 12. We'll see. I'm especially curious to see what you guys think about Chiefs backs and where ownership lands there, because I do think that'll dictate this some. Yeah, man, Kyron's a really strong play. Rams side, I think it's really, really simple. It's super condensed between Lamar. I like Isaiah Likely again here. Rams have been so bad against tight ends all season. He's not like a true full-time player, but he's just 3,500. This matchup is so good. Last week, Browns gave up 872 and 1 to Browns tight ends, and that was all to Harrison Bryant. I think Likely's really strong paired with Lamar, and obviously Kyron is the bring back. Scott, you brought up the point total. Ravens defense is legit, but like you said, Ravens run defense can be kind of had. They're not great. They're not bad. Jake, what do you think about this game, man?
not really a game I'm going to be looking to stack.
Yeah.
I think you could maybe make an argument for game stacks are a little more tempting over on FanDuel, where Lamar's price is pretty palatable. He's a strong value over there. So, Lamar likely, Rams run back, I think is pretty viable over there. But outside of that, I'm really only looking at one-off pieces. Keaton Mitchell, I think at least deserves mention. He's actually projecting pretty decent at 4,900. And I mean, we know he has the big play upside necessary. I mean, you could be a little worried about the weather or whatever, but yeah, I mean, he's just a fantastic player. He really jumps off the screen, and he's going to be hyper efficient with Lamar at quarterback. So, and I also really like Buka. Cooper Kupp just hasn't looked like himself. So, but that also might depend a little bit on weather. If it's looking really gross, I probably want to stick with Kyron.
Yeah, Ravens are out of their bye. I'm going to be really curious to see if they change up anything in terms of their, backfield usage. Mitchell's snap rate has increased in 4 straight games, but he has 1 snap inside the 10 all season. I mean, it's just been all Gus getting all the touchdown equity. That would be my concern with Mitchell, but yeah, I'm with you. I think he does project like a strong value. Especially again, we'll talk Chiefs backs, but I don't think Keaton Mitchell is going to be all that popular this week. Scott, what do you think about Ravens backfields and Lamar, likely all the Ravens things?
Yeah, I think Keaton Mitchell, he could be Baltimore's like Devon A-Chain light, 2% projected ownership. He's cheap. It makes a lot of sense. Not in love with it, but it's there. Gus Edwards, hey, he could score multiple times and still miss value. Puka Nacua, that's another good call. I'm not writing him up, but like I sort of regret not writing him up. He had 105 yards and a touchdown and 19 routes last week. Since week 7, he ranks 5th best in yards per route run. Cooper Kupp ranks bottom 10. Lamar, you can make a case for. Rams seemingly struggle against mobile quarterbacks. Issue there is Harbaugh said, we want to be more intentional about like feeding the running backs inside the red zone. And since he said that, just totally robbed Lamar of any ceiling. I'm probably not going to play him this week. Isaiah Likely, like you said, is definitely the best play from this game against the Rams tight end funnel defense. Great spot for him. I do like Brevin Moore and a few other names. But I think OBJ is legitimately like an exciting punt. One of the better punts on the slate. And there's like a lot of those. Since week 8, he ranks behind only Tyreek Hill and XFP per route run, has exactly as many targets as Zay Flowers on only 55% as many routes run. And so like, that's the issue, is like his route share is like in the dirt, but you could blame that on injuries, shoulder, knee, shoulder. And so maybe he's healthier coming off the bye, and now he could be like a full-time player getting that sort of usage. I'm an OBJ hater, but that's a compelling argument to me. Rashad Bateman, 3,200, you could say, that's a bet against OBJ and makes sense. But like you said, Likely is the best play of the slate of this game.
Yeah, you and I are looking at it the same way with OBJ. I mean, I wasn't really going to like hype him up, but like, he's out of the bye, should be fully healthy. By XFP, I looked into this. Their last 7 games together, basically since like Beckham got healthy, he actually has more XFP per game, not just per route run, but per game than Zay Flowers.
Wow.
Again, it's like by half a point.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty surprising. I think you've been right on Flowers. We've been right on Flowers all year. He's just like a low ceiling play in general. I mean, honestly, I'd rather play Beckham.
He scored 2 touchdowns in his last game, and someone like came at me on Twitter, is like, oh yeah, what were you saying about Zay Flowers? He had 24 receiving yards.
Dude, yeah, he's finished as like a top 25 wide receiver like 3 times all year. I mean, he's just
he's averaging like 1 catch per game over 10 air yards.
Yeah. And with Bateman and Beckham back, his downfield usage is just gone.
I mean, no Mark Andrews if there was ever a time to play him, but
yeah, fair. I do.
He could see double-digit targets, but
yeah,
I'd rather chase like OBJ, as gross as that is.
I know. I do like this game for game stacks. I will say, Jake, I think you alluded to this on FanDuel. I think Lamar is going to be massive chalk. When everything's said and done, he's only 8K. It's going to be him and Fields, I think, over there. Actually, let's talk Fields. Lions Bears. Detroit's getting 3, totals 43. It's up from 40. Again, we had some weather concerns in Chicago, some wind concerns, but looks like it's going to be clean. Not many injury notes that I have in this game. Frank Ragnow, Lions center, is going to miss another game. Deontay Foreman is back, and that's obviously important for the Bears backfield because this is just a full-blown committee at this point. But Jake, let's talk through Fields, man. I mean, I think, once again, we were kind of on him in his return game against Detroit. He went out and ran for 104 yards, 18 carries. The following week, he gets 12 more carries, 59 yards. I mean, he has an insanely high floor rushing. Fields is just an incredible play here.
Yeah, he's played 5 games since week 4. 2 of those games were against Minnesota, where he only averaged 9.3 DraftKings fantasy points per game. But he averaged 30 DraftKings fantasy points per game over his last 3 games against non-Minnesota opponents. As Graham alluded to, that included a 24-point DraftKings performance against Detroit, where he also ran for over 100 rushing yards. Detroit, over their last 6 games against hypermobile quarterbacks, has given up just over 30 DraftKings points per game and just over 15 rushing fantasy points per game. So, it's the ideal matchup for Fields. He's been, playing quite well if you exclude these recent games against Minnesota. I talked about this on the Tuesday show. I asked Chris, I was like, why, is Detroit just not going to change their scheme here to stop rushing quarterbacks? Like, what are they doing? And he was like, this is just how Aaron Glenn plays defense. This is just what Detroit does. They give up huge chunks to rushing quarterbacks. So, I think Fields, he's right there with Lamar as the cash quarterback play on FanDuel. One of the best possible values on DraftKings. He's a fantastic tournament play. Ownership will match, probably be around 12%.
Yeah, he projects incredibly well. Scott, what do you think, man? What do you think about Fields? Obviously, we're bringing it back with DJ Moore. I mean, it's just been such a hot combo. What do you think about this game, man?
Yeah. Best GPP QB play of the slate, Justin Fields. Unfortunately, unlike the last time we saw these two teams face off, the rest of the industry is on it. Yep. Jake, what's DJ Moore looking like? Are other sites projecting him to be a cash play?
No, not. He's not projecting that well. He's projecting okay.
That's insane to me at 6,500. Yeah.
I'm gonna lock him in. He's a top 3 easy cash play, maybe the best wide receiver play of the slate. I do not give a single fuck. It's just too easy. You look at what he's done over Justin Fields' last 6 full games. It's 25, 23, 52, 30, 13, 19 DraftKings fantasy points. I think the 19, I think he was like 1 yard shy of the 3-point bonus. But anyway, that's 27 DraftKings fantasy points per game, or 32.5 over his last 4 with Fields. Leads the league in first read target share with Fields over this span. He's priced as the wide receiver 16. This is absolutely stupid. And so that's really encouraging that the rest of the industry seems to be missing it. He's a lock button play for me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm locking that in.
Go ahead, Jake, sorry.
Just looking at industry projections by projected value, he's the wide receiver 35, and by projected ownership, it looks like he's around wide receiver 12-ish. Yeah, wide receiver 14. So you're probably looking at 12 to 15%. I imagine he will come up a little bit after this show, but man, I'm with you, Scott. I think he's a fantastic play.
Awesome. Komet also in play. I think he's going to go maybe a little overowned because all of his best games came with Tyson, or most of his best games came with Tyson Bagent under center. Still, even with Fields, he's shown a ridiculous ceiling for his price point. He's a great play, and you could just play both of them with Fields because he's not targeting anyone else. Yep. But preference definitely DJ Moore. I would just totally ignore the running backs on Chicago's side. The trickiest thing to me about playing Fields is who you bring it back with. So I'm eager to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Real quick on Komet, I do like him for doubles. Lions have given up 6 touchdowns to tight ends, and we're really just chasing touchdowns at this point with Komet. My lean this week would be Amon-Ra. You need, if you're going to stack up this game, right, you want Fields and Moore just to go off. You want this game to combine for 150 plays, something like that. Amon-Ra obviously has a ceiling. Bears just have been so good since Jalen Johnson came back. They've been really, really strong against the pass. He would be my ceiling choice, but I don't really feel super, super strongly about it.
Yeah, I don't have a particularly strong take either. I think both him and Laporta are pretty strong. I mean, last week Laporta had the 4th highest target share of any tight end this season. So you can make a pretty solid case for both guys.
Yeah, and I think Gibbs is in play. Bears are really good against the run, but they give up a ton of production in the passing game to running backs. Again, if you're stacking this game, you want this game to go off. Bears are giving up nearly 60 receiving yards per game to opposing backs, and that's by design. They play really tight in the secondary, force a lot of checkdowns, second highest checkdown rate in the league. So I do think Gibbs is kind of interesting at 6,600 on DK. Not in play on FanDuel, only on DK for the receiving role, but he's going to be like 2% this week.
I just want to say one thing on Detroit side. I don't know if any Detroit player is going to make my article.
Yeah.
But
you don't have to bring it back. I mean, you can just roll Fields and more and be done,
I don't know. I kind of think you have to bring it back. Well, for a dub stack, you would have to bring it back. Maybe not if it's just Fields or more, but I do like that bring back just for the upside and having to get fewer things right. But I mean, like even not on Fields lineups, like I said, I don't know that any Detroit player is going to make my article as like a value and upside, but like the chances of one Detroit player being a player you had to have is very, very high. It was the same exact thing last week where I struggled to pick one guy, but like the smart move was to just like, if you're making 3 lineups, have one with Laporta, one with St. Brown, one with Gibbs, something like that. And you should do the same thing again this week, is like have exposure to one guy, because this is one of the most potent offenses. What makes it tricky is it's just hard to find that one guy, but you can, spread that out across lineups and bolster the upside of your roster.
Yeah, smart. I will say, Jake, what do you think Laporta's ownership is going to be? I mean, this week I think people are going to be looking to punt down. What do you think?
I don't think a lot of people are going to get to Laporta. I mean, there's a lot of really nice tight end value on the board. And I think, people who are playing Fields are just going to click Amon-Ra.
Yep.
So you may not need to get, super cute with a guy like Gibbs. You can probably just load up on Laporta, but both are fine. Yeah. I did want to mention Jared Goff, at least in passing, as a potential GPP quarterback. I mean, I understand that the chances that he outscores Fields in this contest are low, but ownership's implying that it's borderline impossible. Chicago's a top 10 schedule adjusted matchup for opposing quarterbacks. They're also the league's number 2 pass funnel because their run defense has been just so strong. Game total's pretty good here. Detroit has the 4th highest implied team total on the slate. If we assume Goff is going to be 1 or 2% owned, I think you can make a case for him.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Panthers Saints. We're going to get Carr back under center. No injury. We'll take this man out. Like, he could literally lose a leg. He's going to come back out next week, man. It's unbelievable. Rib injury, shoulder injury, got another concussion. He's playing. Saints are a mess, though, man. Taysom has a foot injury. He's questionable. He didn't practice all week. Rashid Shaheed's going to miss another game. Obviously, Michael Thomas is out for the next 2 games with a knee injury, still on IR. Kendre Miller hasn't practiced in basically a month. Alvin Kamara is just going to get absolutely fed the ball again this week. Same with Chris Olave. Olave has the flu, but he's going to play. I saw a tweet from one of the Saints beats and said Olave's in. So he'll have the next 2 days to get right off the flu. Scott, messy game, man. But it could be a super condensed Saints team. And that's, interesting for sure.
Yeah. Did you mention that Taysom Hill is questionable and Rashid Shaheed is questionable? And so, what an absolute mess. The way I wrote this up for my article is like, let me just give you guys an update on Saturday or Sunday. And like when I saw that tweet, it was like Chris Olave is going to play. And then like the follow-up tweet was like, oh, and Derek Carr is going to play. And like, I wanted to find a good GIF that was like, woo, boo. Because like, I mean, if it was Jameis, I would be so comfortable having so much exposure to Olave. Obviously a little less excited about that. Not an amazing price point at 7K, but he has been on an unreal heater his last 8 quarters or so. Probably not going to have a ton of him. Kamara does definitely excite me. He's the RB leader in expected fantasy points per game. He has 2 games with 14 or more targets, 4 with 8 or more. Great matchup against the Panthers. I could see him getting like 18 carries plus wide receiver 1 target, or maybe not with Olave healthy, but just insane volume. Probably don't like him as much as, that argument I just made. There's other running backs who excite me more, but he's up there for sure. No Taysom obviously to vulture. I don't know. You could also just kind of like fuck this offense. Like who cares?
It's been so brutal, man. It has been brutal. I do think, just in terms of just having condensed pieces, it is nice this week. Carr though, I remember that week 5 game when he was playing through a shoulder injury and he like could not throw the ball downfield. This game could be an absolute.
Oh, that was a Kamara blow up game.
It was. No, it wasn't. I don't think he was back from the suspension, was he?
I think that was a Kamara. I think that was a 14
that might have been
target.
the first game. That might have been the first game back.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Oh, all right. Kamara getting a little more interesting now.
I think you're right. Hold on. Yeah, that was the 14 target game. First game back. Good call.
He had 84 yards from scrimmage on 11 carries, 14 targets, 0 touchdowns.
Oh man, he's been more explosive than I thought he would be. I will say he's not prime Kamara, but he's definitely not dusty. He's a great.
There was a great article from Nick Underhill on that where he was working with a guy. Apparently, like he had some conditioning issue where like he was he was out on the field, but he wasn't getting like enough reps where his like heart rate would just like flatten or something. And then it was also like his left leg was like 3 times as muscular as the right leg. So I don't know. They did a bunch of work and like apparently they've seen dramatic results. But yeah, on the Panthers side, again, you could just like write off this game and maybe that's smart. But Jonathan Mingo over the last 2 weeks has 5 times as many receiving yards as Adam Thielen, has out targeted him 16-9, had a 42% first read target share last week. He's a good punt. Chuba Hubbard is interesting to me. I thought he was going to be one of my sneaky plays. He's hit 20 fantasy points in back-to-back games. Panthers are top 5, one of the most run-heavy offenses the last 3 weeks. His share of the backfield XFP continues to grow up to 73% last week. And 3 of his 4 best games by XFP have come with Thomas Brown calling the plays. He's only called plays in 4 games. Basically like low-end RB1 volume in Thomas Brown games. And so I thought he was going to be sneaky, but I've heard some other people mention him. So I guess not. He's just like vaguely in play, stacked with Panthers defense against a broken and injured Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think that's the play. If you're just like, this game sucks, I'm just going to play Hubbard with Saints D. Saints run defense has not been, with Panthers D. Saints run defense has not been good. Like last 5 weeks, they played the Colts, Bears, Vikings, Falcons, and Lions. They're giving up nearly 5 yards per carry. Saints have been really good over the years against the run, but not anymore. Miles Sanders is just complete dust. Chris Tabor, their new interim coach, he fired Deuce Staley. He was the guy who brought in Miles Sanders. To me, I think Hubbard is just going to get, pretty much all of the valuable work once again here. So I like that call. I'm not seeing, just looking at ownership projections now, I'm not seeing a ton of ownership on him though. So it could be a really good call come Sunday morning. Bucks Falcons, keeping it moving here. Falcons are getting 2. Over under is 41, up from 39. The Bucks are absolutely destroyed defensively. Vita Vea has a toe injury. He didn't practice all week. Both Jamel Dean and Devin White are going to miss. On the Falcons side, AJ Terrell picked up a concussion at the end of the Falcons game last week, but he practiced on Friday. So, if he missed, it'd be a nice boost for Evans, but I think he's going to play. Jake, I'll throw it to you first, man. Is it Bijan Robinson week? Bijan? Is it Bijan or Bijan? I truly don't know.
What does John call him?
I think it's Bijan. He says Bijan on the Sunday show. So it's probably right. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson, I think, is a fantastic play. One of the best running back plays of the week. I mean, what's important here is like we're finally getting a well-rounded usage profile out of him. He's playing way more backfield XFP when Atlanta's leading, way more backfield XFP in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And his workload since week 10 is like a top 6 workload among running backs, and yet he's priced on both sides as the RB11. So he's an objective value, and he's not a guy where you have to worry about the game getting out of hand in one way or another. He's going to be involved no matter what. So I really like him. I really like him paired with the Atlanta defense. Yeah, he's just a great play.
Yeah, Falcons, man, they're at like 15%, negative 15% pass rate under expectation the last 3 weeks. Just absolutely wild. DraftKings pricing for running backs is just so soft this week. Moss is going to be mega chalk. We'll get there in the next game, but I think Robinson will probably end up being Jake, the second highest owned, maybe the third, right behind McCaffrey.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I think McCaffrey and Moss are going to be the top 2.
Yeah,
I would put Bijan number 3.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, Vita Vea missing this game is huge. I mean, he's one of the league's premier run stuffers. Just massive for Falcons run game. It's a good spot for Drake London, but I just mentioned, I mean, they're at negative 15 pass rate over expectation last 3 weeks. It's a fine spot for London. But Scott, what are your thoughts for this game? I'm sure you're on Bijan too. Bijan, sorry. Jesus.
I think this is a really good spot for Drake London. Like, he's 4,500. Like, it's really come down in price for him. Vita Vea, that might change the equation, but this would otherwise be the premier pass funnel offense. It's also a great matchup for him. It's easily top 5. He averages 72 yards per game at home. That's like twice as much as on the road. I like him. I think he's a great value. I think he's certainly in cash consideration. I also think Kyle Pitts is sort of interesting. And I know, like, I should get shot for saying that, but if you look at last week, his route share ballooned up to 87%. That's up from 57%. 30% target share. That was a season high, up from 14%. It's a top 3 matchup for him. And so all this like makes me want to consider Desmond Ridder. I actually made Jake do like begrudgingly a blurb on Desmond Ridder. He's like very low on my list, but like he is in play. What was your line, Jake, contrasting him to Purdy?
So Desmond Ridder plus Kyle Pitts plus Drake London costs $100 less than Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk. And if we measured quarterbacks by how often they showed up in the Millie Maker winning lineup, Desmond Ridder is just as good as Patrick Mahomes.
What a great argument from someone who I had to force to write it up.
And by the way, does basically anything Desmond Ridder will make Jake make Jake vomit. Basically, like the idea, how like you could basically put Jake like in a torture chamber, just force his eyeballs open and make him watch Desmond Ridder tape.
He's really bad at real football, but for fantasy, he isn't as bad as he is at real football.
Yeah, man, his ceiling has just been so low as of late, though. But yeah, I mean, this game certainly has a pathway to shoot out, in which case Ridder could absolutely get there again. But
it's
man,
a pass funnel for what it's worth. I mean, maybe not as much with Vita Vea out, but
yeah. And again, this is a really gross thin slate. So
yeah,
just what's going on here. Like these aren't high on our list, but just worth mentioning on a terrible slate. Like if there was a slate for Ridder to do it, it might be this one.
Yeah, and I mean his price is just completely sunk here. I will say, I mean, London and Elijah Moore projecting to be basically the 2 most popular 4,500 receivers. They'll probably push for 20 to 25%. I think if Flacco starts, I think I prefer Elijah Moore. As wild as that absolutely sounds saying out loud, probably going to regret that one, but hey.
Buck side?
Yeah, Buck side. Mike Evans, I mean, every week he's in play, but, he's...
What's the status on AJ Terrell? That's significant to me.
He practiced full today, so I think he's going to play.
All right. Well, yeah. I would probably avoid him unless you're talking Ridder stacks, which, yeah, yikes. Rashad Wright, I think is...
Yeah, he's always in play.
Yeah, Mr. Consistency. He's finished top 13 in DraftKings fantasy points in 7 straight games. He's only finished inside the top 9 once when he led the position in fantasy points, but still, nonetheless, insanely consistent. Over that span, RB4 by fantasy points per game, RB3 by XFP per game. He's going to play every snap. And so he's like a great value. And I've been saying, like, I kind of quibble with the upside for tournaments, but this is a week where you kind of don't have to quibble with the upside for tournaments. So I just think he's a strong play, pretty good play.
Like that. Yeah, Rashad White's always in play. He's been like perpetually like 10% owned over on FanDuel, and I've been playing him every single week. But this is the week I'm just going to be smashing all the Bijan Robinson. He's 7,100 on FanDuel. Cortland Sutton is more expensive. So I mean, if you're playing over on FanDuel still. Colts Bengals. Keeping it moving. Bengals are getting 2. This is switched. Colts were 1-point favorites to open the week. Over-unders 44. Up from 40. A couple of notes here. Colts are going to get their defensive tackle Grover Stewart back. He was suspended for 6 weeks, and he's actually kind of important. Him and DeForest Buckner are really good run-stuffing duo. DJ Reader on the Bengals side has a back injury. And if he were to miss, I mean, this is already a great spot for Zach Moss. I mean, Bengals run defense has been so bad all year. Just make it even better. Moss, Jake, is going to push, mega chalk again. I don't think he's going to be 75% like he was last week, 85%, but he's probably going to push 40 to 50. He's still too cheap. Really strong play. Got all the touches, all the things we expected last week, just no fantasy points. Zach Moss week again.
Yeah, Moss is a fantastic value. 8 opportunities inside the 10 last week, 94% snap share. Only 4 instances of a player earning 7 or more inside the 10 opportunities in a single game this season. Only 9 instances of a running back earning a snap share of 94% or higher. Really not much more to say about Moss and what is a great matchup. Only 5,900 on DraftKings. I mean, it's a layup, but like we saw last week, you can get away from him in tournaments. He's not a guy you have to lock in.
For sure.
I mean, that's exactly what we're saying. We're seeing 40% ownership, and it's like, yeah, he should be. He's like an insane value. He's an awesome play, but it's also like if he scores under 10 points, then you've just wiped out 4/10 of the field. That's a massive advantage, and like that's exactly what he did last week. And so when we talked about Zach Moss last week, I said I really like Derrick Henry plus Michael Pittman as leverage. And well, you can do the same exact thing this week, Pittman or Downs and Joe Mixon as leverage. I think Mixon's like a really strong play in his own right in a great matchup and is also like a great leverage play. So I like that a lot. I will say on Pittman versus Downs, I think it's kind of the same exact thing as it was the last few weeks for me. It's where they're both like 2 of the best values on the entire slate. Last week, I was telling Johnny to kind of pump the brakes on Downs just because I was viewing Tennessee as a reverse slot funnel. The good news this week is like this is a slot funnel. Opposite. So great week to go back to Downs. What does worry me though is like the Alec Pierce breakout game, and you could just say he's like Chris Hogan who hits 1 out of every 17 games and does nothing else. But like the OC was hyping him up and was like, this is just the start. I've been wanting to get Alec Pierce involved for a while and like, just you wait. And so like, that makes me a little nervous, but I still love both those guys. Just like with Minshew under center, based on their production and volume, they're mispriced by a significant margin. So yeah, I like all those guys.
Yeah, I was an Alec Pierce guy this offseason, drafted him a ton of best ball teams. Same with Downs, same with Pittman. Worked. Unfortunately, all those teams have Anthony Richardson.
I have so many teams that drafted 3 quarterbacks and have 0 quarterbacks.
It's
insane.
God, it's brutal this year. I'm surprised
there are teams with Kyron, A-Chain, Mostert, and 0 quarterbacks. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Also Christian Watson and Darren Waller, but we don't have to get it. That's why we love DFS, guys.
Dude, I mean, but it's going to be really interesting to see what the winning best ball rosters look like at the end of the year. It's going to be a lot of Kyron for sure, but it's going to be a lot of dead pieces too. Scott, I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring up
Ezekiel Elliott on there.
Oh God, don't even get me started. I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring up Minshew, man. I think Minshew's in play, averaging 38 attempts per game, man. He's like, that's like Sam Howell level, 5,400. I'm not seeing any ownership on him. I think he's obviously because it's Moss, but I think he's a really interesting leverage play. If you don't play Moss, obviously you're playing him with Pittman or Downs. Christian Kirk would have gone for 150 yards last week if he just his balls didn't explode.
If Minshew had the game he had last week, 2 weeks ago, I think me and Neil on our show would have won the Millie Maker. So
he's kind of like
burned me with
Jameis,
that.
man. Like he like plays hair on fire. He, there's throws he makes, it'll make you question reality, but like, he definitely has a little upside for sure. This game has some upside. Colts Bengals is one of the games that's up in pace, could be up in pass rate too. Again, all the weather looks
indie
clean.
games go over.
Off.
Like,
they go off. They're one of like the only over teams we have this year. There's only been really one or two consistently over teams, and it's them and Detroit, really.
I think what makes Minshew a bit more tempting as a tournament play is that Jake Browning's projecting so well. Like he's Jake Browning's going to be chalk. Minshew seems to be, vastly overlooked, despite the fact that, there really isn't a huge gap in terms of overall projection between the duo. So yeah, I really like Minshew in tournaments. I think that's a strong play, pretty easy to stack. And just run it back with Chase or Mixon on the other side.
I got to think some of this Browning ownership is Chase being 7,600 though. And obviously this is like the nut spot, but Chase is, he's 7,600. He just lost his mind against the Jags. Everybody was watching that game. He is a little too cheap. I think that's why Browning is projecting for the ownership he is. But yeah, Chase is a good play though. He's definitely a good play. Great spot,
He is a good play. His volume hasn't improved significantly with Browning. They're doing a lot more design stuff with Browning.
There's no
under center though.
Throwing.
Yeah, so you could argue against the ceiling for Chase, I think, a little bit.
It's a good spot.
But he's also still Jamar Chase in a strong matchup.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, anytime he gets to face, subpar corners, like he has the ability to go for 150. But yeah, I was looking at that too. Browning's only attempted 4 deep passes so far on 77 attempts. His only connection was that Chase deep ball last week. Tim Boyle has a lower ADOT. So, we need Browning to like actually chuck it. He might have to in this spot. This is a really good game. The afternoon of the early games, I think it's this one and Lions Bears would be the two in terms of game stacks, right?
Yeah, that would be my lane.
Okay. All right. Last game in the early window, Texans, Jets. Texans getting 3.5. This line has come down all week. Jets are getting pounded from 5.5 down to 3.5 for Texans. Totals up a little bit to 33. Dalton Schultz is out again. And, Scott, you were on Brevin Jordan last week. He obviously ripped off a big play. Yeah, man, I think Brevin Jordan's a good play again this week. Jets they're not like, giving up a ton of production to tight ends, but
they're bottom 7.
Yeah, they're definitely not great either.
They're just a massive tight end funnel because they're giving up nothing to wide receivers.
Yeah, well, exactly. The thing is, can we play Stroud?
I think he's fine as a contrarian play, honestly. He's just like been so unstoppable. He's basically been Dak Prescott. And if this were Dak, people, I'm just going to play him anyway. He's not going to be high on my list or anything, but partly because like I think you can just get away with just playing Nico and capturing all that upside. And then even then it's a brutal matchup. I just think like CJ Stroud is a kingmaker where like the cheat code for I don't know how many weeks now has been make a rule, min 1 Texans wide receiver on every lineup. And there's multiple weeks where having 2, jettison you up the leaderboard, but at least 1. And so I think Nico's still in play. I like that upside. No Tank Dell concentrates things more in his direction. He had like a 75% yardage market share last week, broke the slate. I want to love Noah Brown, my guy who's made me so much money. I just don't think he's healthy. Yeah. I don't think he's like particularly close to healthy. So Brevin Jordan, that's my top tight end play of the week. And Nico drawing sub 5% ownership, I think is a great GPP play.
Yeah, Noah Brown did not practice again today. He's definitely not healthy. And Jordan's in play again. What do you think about John Mechie? Is he in play? Like he's going to split with Woods, but
that's what it is. Yeah,
3 targets last week. Dude,
I'm not playing a guy splitting with Woods. Who's
I know, I hear you, but if Stroud had hit Mechie there was a broken play and Mechie was wide ass open. Stroud overthrew him by 5 yards. If he hits that play, Mechie's going to pick up ownership, but I don't think anybody's going to play him.
I will say weather
3K.
in this game looks pretty brutal. The total's 33.
Yep.
And you generally, I mean,
It's
Scott,
a Zach Wilson game too.
You've been doing this a lot longer than me. How many defenses have we seen give up negative 14 schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers?
Right. They have shown some cracks of late, to be fair. If you dig into it, maybe this is just like wishful thinking, but they gave up 75 or more receiving yards to wide receiver ones in 5 of their last 6. And then wide receiver 2s, Khalil Shakir, Jalen Waddle, both exceeded 22 DraftKings fantasy points. That might just be wishful thinking, but yeah, like that's insane. I also want to just one quick note to the listeners. I ignore weather until Sunday morning, and then I'll give you guys something in Discord, but I just don't want that to like mess with my analysis until I know it's real.
No, that's the right call. And you said 5 of 6 games, right? That was a stat.
Yeah.
The one game they didn't, they played Drake London, the Falcons. They threw it 22 times.
Right.
I mean, so that's a good stat. That's a good stat for sure. I only brought up Mechie because he's 3K. He will split with Robert Woods, but I do think he's moderately in play, especially if you are taking a constrained stance and playing Stroud on the Jet side. I mean, Breece Hall is dealing with an ankle injury. To me, it's really just Garrett Wilson. I tweeted this out. The Jets brought back up Allen Lazard last year, the carcass of Allen Lazard last week. And they just basically told him just to go stand out wide so Garrett Wilson could move into the slot more. And that's kind of important for this week. Texans are more of a slot funnel, but I mean, I'm not excited to play Garrett Wilson at all. He is 5,500, but between him and Rashee Rice, I think it's clearly Rice.
He's seen at least 12 targets and gained at least 80 receiving yards in 4 of his last 5 games with Zach Wilson under center. Like, I did not expect it to look like that. I think
the volume is there, but he has no touchdown scene.
Yeah, the offense might do absolutely nothing. I mean, that's what the game total implies that. But yeah, high end wide receiver 1 volume at a wide receiver 3 price tag. That's pretty good. But I am with you. I think Rashee Rice is a significantly better play overall.
Yeah, he's a better play overall, but Wilson is in play. The floor is strong, but I just don't see a huge ceiling for him. Rice could score 35. I don't know if Garrett Wilson's even really touching 25. That's all I got here. Let's keep it moving. Seahawks, Niners. We got a lot of injury news here in this game. Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker are both going to play, so we'll get some sort of backfield split. Geno Smith popped up with a groin injury that he sustained in practice. Good luck getting something straight from Pete Carroll on that one. Geno might not play, just something to keep in the back of your mind. I don't think you're really playing Geno, but what obviously hurt this game quite a bit, seeing Drew Lock back there against the Niners front 7. Good Lord. Elijah Mitchell didn't practice all week. It doesn't really matter, but it definitely just boosts up McCaffrey a little bit more in this spot. Jake, I mean, McCaffrey every single week, you always make a case for him, but especially this week, Seahawks have been so bad against the run as of late, giving up 4.9 yards per carry, and they're getting blasted through the air too. Jordan Brooks might miss this game on the Seahawks side. Their stud linebacker. Man, CMC every week, Purdy every week. It's just, you're just differentiating those 2 guys and building from there. Yeah,
no, you're spot on. I mean, CMC, fantastic play yet again. He has 10 games over 20 DraftKings points. That's twice as many as the next closest running back. I mean, he's just been absurd this season. Brock Purdy also projecting as a really strong value. I mean, 6,500 is the most expensive he's been all year. It's still too cheap. 23.5 DraftKings fantasy points per game, or over 23.5 DraftKings points in 4 of his last 5. That said, all 4 of those games did come against top 6 pass funnels. Seattle's been a bit more of a run funnel since week 7. So I think, that's your argument to get away from Purdy a bit in tournaments.
Scott, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, everything just shapes up for this to be like a Christian McCaffrey 40-point game. And
I know.
It seems like that's what it's going to be. But
his ceiling is 45 in this spot, man. I mean, it's
pretty still the cash quarterback though. Like DraftKings just refuses to. I said he was the most undervalued quarterback in best ball, And then I said he was the most undervalued quarterback in DFS week 1. And I've said it for 14 straight weeks. And he's just the man. Love that dude. In terms of like which receiver do you play? Like I wrote in the everything report, it's like impossible basically. And like you look at their XFP and it's like they're each averaging between 8 to 9 XFP per game. And then they're scoring like between 16 and 18 fantasy points per game. People are saying, oh, Debo owns the Seahawks, but if you dig into the coverage shell stuff, it's probably a better matchup for Ayuk. That said, I mean, like only 100 is separating them. Give me the guy who ranks second best in yards per route run and just like looks like a real alpha wide receiver. So I do prefer Ayuk. Kittle and play for tournaments as always. Just in his upside is really unique. I probably above Kelsey, honestly.
Yeah.
And that might be another situation, like I was saying with Detroit, but probably even more so, where you just you want one on every single lineup, maybe 2 if you count McCaffrey. Maybe not every lineup, but a lot of lineups. There's just a lot of upside there, but a lot of unpredictability in terms of who goes off. Seattle side, there might be something there to the running backs if one of them misses. Again, this is another thing I'm just going to like let myself deal with once we get injury news, and hopefully they both play and aren't in play.
I think they both play. They both practice full today.
If Geno starts, I think Lockett's a fine value. Really, like there's no difference between him and Metcalf in terms of usage and volume and even production. It's just that one thing that the touchdown regression finally hit for Metcalf last week, and Lockett still do. So he's 1,100 cheaper. I also like JSN, who I think we can quibble with the upside, but he did have 11 targets last week. That was more than Metcalf or Lockett. He had 25.4 XFP that ranked top 6 on the week. He only scored 13.2 fantasy points, but would have scored 27 if not for just one play negated due to penalty. Pete Carroll was talking him up, saying he wants him more involved in the offense, running more on the perimeter. That's notable. Seattle's been like really good against the slot in recent weeks, but he'll run like 50% on the outside.
Yeah.
He's another one of these like sub 4.7K guys who's interesting.
Yeah, they do a lot of good shit to get him outside. And for Seahawks, if you're stacking this game, I think JSN's my favorite bring back. Over on FanDuel, I just want to know Kittle is the best play at tight end. He's like priced as like a mid-range wide receiver 3. I think he's 6,600 over there. I was just looking a second ago. Yeah, 66. Really, really strong play. I think he's my favorite tight end over there this week. This game on Thanksgiving just turned out to be a total dud. I mean, Seahawks just did nothing offensively, and they could do nothing offensively again, especially with Geno dealing with an injury. But 46.5 total, really, really strong, especially given this slate. I think we about covered it though. I think that'll do it. Vikings at the Raiders. Vikings getting 3, total's 40.5. Both teams out of a bye, and we're getting Justin Jefferson back. Remember him? Remember that guy? He's back. Colton Miller, Raiders side, is going to miss, and Max Crosby's still dealing with his knee injury. He's way less than 100%. Could be a really fun game. The more I've thought about this game, the more I see it going to the moon. I think it has a real chance to go off here. Obviously, the big question is Dobbs. 4 picks last game out, Jake. He has real upside. Obviously, he's scrambling a little bit every single week. I think out of the bye, we're going to see O'Connell come out and basically like scheme up some stuff out of the run game for him. Dobbs is just 5,900 this week. He's a really, really strong play over on DraftKings here.
Yeah, he's top 8 among quarterbacks in rushing fantasy points per game. He's also the only quarterback on that list who costs less than 6,800. He has as many games of 23 or more DraftKings points as Jared Goff and CJ Stroud. Like you noted, this definitely has some shootout potential. Plus, we get Justin Jefferson back. I mean, this is the first time in Joshua Dobbs' career he's playing with arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Dobbs himself, he'll draw some tournament ownership. He's projecting pretty well. I think a lot of people understand the argument for playing him, but it doesn't look like Jefferson's going to be particularly popular. I also don't think Hawkinson's going to catch much ownership too. So overall, Dobbs stacks look fantastic. To me, he's like pretty clearly my second favorite tournament play after Justin Fields at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I like Dobbs a lot. And I think the Vegas side's very clear too. I mean, I prefer Jacobs, but you can also roll with Devontae Adams. It feels like a really easy game to stack. I don't think a ton of people are going to be on it. Love Dobbs. Love this game.
I think people are going to play Jacobs, but I don't think many people are going to play Adams, and no one is going to play Jefferson. I think he's like probably one of the strongest tournament plays of the week. He is not going to have any restrictions. They've been taking it so easy with this dude. Vikings are squarely in the NFC playoff hunt. Like, they've been at 3 all week here. Jefferson is a really strong tournament play. And I think TJ Hawkinson is as well. You were noting that as well. Scott, you got anything to add here about this game? I think Raiders side is so condensed. I mean, it's just Jacobs and Adams really.
No, I've been hating on Adams, but his production's really picked up in recent weeks. Yeah. And there's room for a massive ceiling game. Maybe he's kind of due for that. I like this game for game stacks. For one-offs, probably not that much.
Yeah. I think
I have no interest in Josh Jacobs, by the way, who's randomly chalk.
Why?
I mean, he's so game script sensitive. I guess that's the argument. He's the same as Javonte Williams to me. It's like, all right, if your team wins by 5 or more points, I could see you smashing, but like if not, then you're probably a bust. And so I just think that's what it's going to be. He's like super chalk, but he's just not someone I'm excited about.
Well, he's Javonte Williams if Sean Payton was convinced that getting him to the 3-point bonus would auto win the game.
Right. Yeah. He's kind of like mini Derrick Henry. The receiving role just completely died. We'll say he got 6 targets last week. But beyond that, I mean, the previous 6-7 games, it's just been non-existent. So he definitely has a lower floor, but I'm kind of more with Jake. I think he's not a great play, but I think he's definitely in play for game stacks, and he's just 6,900 over on FanDuel. I think your analysis is right, Scott. Like at 8K over there, he's probably, his floor is probably a little too low. And this week is so easy on FanDuel for running back. I mean, it's Bijan, it's Zach Moss. There's some interesting punt guys too. All right, Broncos Chargers 2.5 is the line. Chargers getting 2.5. I'm on Broncos at +3. I think they win straight up. Total's 44. No real injury news. Josh Palmer will miss another game. They did bring him back off of IR, so he has a chance next week to play. And the following, they obviously desperately need him because Quentin Johnston is just not getting it done, man. Talking about games that have sneaky shootout potential, pretty much every single game in the afternoon window has really strong shootout potential, especially compared to the early games, Scott. Keenan Allen, though, is going to get like 1,500 targets again this week. He's going to be massive chalk. But yeah, I mean, it's been Keenan week almost every single week, and man, he's going to be fed the ball again.
Yeah, he's just like an absolute XFP god, target hog. He didn't hit last week, but that was a weird game. Baltimore's head coach admitted to double teaming him all game, and he still had 14 catches, hit the 100-yard bonus. One thing I'll note though is like Patrick Surtain's going to shadow him on all of his perimeter routes, and then they're a top 3 defense against slot wide receivers this year. I'm not sure how much it matters when Eckler's dust and Quentin Johnston's incompetent, Jalen Guyton's a nobody. But if he's chalky, I kind of, I don't know, he doesn't really excite me as much as I thought he would, or at least as much as ownership implies.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be like massive chalk. I do expect he'll be probably the highest owned wide receiver on the slate, though. But he's not going to be, pushing 30%. God help me. I can't believe I'm about to say this. Is Gerald Everett in play?
I don't see it. Ian Hartitz has that tweet every single week where it's like Everett makes like an insane play, and then you check the box score and it was his only
Yeah.
target, and it's like,
Yeah.
So-
He does have 9 targets last 2 weeks, 8 for 87. Broncos are so bad against tight ends.
yeah, I know. Parham's gonna go off. Watch.
Yeah. I think it's only for Herbert stacks, but Broncos side, man, I think it's really simple. I mean, Sutton, Javonte. Jake, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I really like Javonte. I mean, I'm with you,
Yeah.
Graham. I think the Broncos win outright. Since week 6, Javonte Williams at 16.3 expected fantasy points per game in wins. That's RB8 over the full season. In losses, though, just 7.2 expected fantasy points per game. It's running back 52. So, yeah, he really is just, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry light in this offense right now. And I think that's fine in a game that, is very winnable for Denver. Sutton looks great. Sutton leads all pass catchers in air yard share since week 7. Downfield role has just been fantastic. He seems to be most of the offense in the red zone too, at least when Russell Wilson is dropping back. Russell Wilson is projecting well for what it's worth. I think he'll be somewhat popular. I really don't like him for tournaments. He just hasn't shown much upside. He's gone over 200 passing yards in 30% of his games this year. I mean, he's gotten pretty lucky with passing touchdowns, but yeah, I just don't see a compelling upside argument for him, especially at, if he's 8 or 9% owned, it's just not there.
Yeah, the floor has been solid for him. He's rushing too. He's been fine, but I'm with you. I think Dobbs has a much, much higher ceiling, and ownership right now is not reflecting that. I'd rather play Minshew and just chase that game going off. I think, I said it, this game definitely has shootout potential. Of the 4 games in the afternoon window, this is definitely the one that has the lowest, but yeah, man, I don't really have much. I mean, this is such a condensed game. I don't really feel super great stacking it either. Let's keep it moving. Bills Chiefs. Everybody's going to want to stack this game. Chiefs are only 1-point favorites at home. This was 2.5. Bills got absolutely obliterated at 2.5. Total is 48.5, up from 47. Couple injury notes. Dawson Knox might be back this week, but he hasn't been elevated. So going to be interesting to see if Knox is back. Also be interesting to see when he is back, if they just, completely scrap the old 2 tight end offense. This 11 personnel has just been working so much better. Chiefs side, obviously Isaiah Pacheco's out. We're going to have the Chiefs back conversation. Oh boy. Scott, did you think we'd be talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire again, our guy? Oh God. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I like him more than McKinnon.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Damn.
I put a rent payment on that, baby.
Was this the last game too?
Yeah.
It keeps hitting. Yeah, backdoor cover, man.
Bro.
Yeah, so I'm with you. Like, I think that's fine. I think that's totally reasonable. Is CEH a cash play? I mean, he's 4,200. He's a lock to get 16 touches. He's also a lock to be a Jag because he's a fucking Jag. But that's there. I think McKinnon is still very in play, especially for tournaments. We just saw like an insane ceiling from him. Like he is going to get that red zone role on lock. They are going to be conservative with him because we know that's always been their plan is, save him and then ramp him up for the playoff stretch. And he's just coming off of injury. But this Pacheco injury makes me like Mahomes a little bit more, makes me like this game more, lean more pass heavy, using McKinnon as an extension of the run game through the air. Those are free fantasy points, those shovel pass touchdowns and all that good stuff. I don't know. Is CEH in play for cash, Jake?
On DraftKings, yes. I would not say so on FanDuel. But DraftKings, I mean, 4,200 for a running back who's projecting for 15 carries. I mean, he'll probably average 2 yards per carry and he can still get you there.
Yeah, there's one of like the all-time biggest winners in like DraftKings history. I forget what his name is, but he like every single week just tries to find the 2 cheapest running backs he can, and then just like jam in like all the best wide receivers, and like that feels like a great week for that. Yeah. And so yeah, CEH, I like CEH. Rashee Rice, I think, is a cash play. I think he's one of the best wide receiver plays of the slate. There's an argument that like he's supplanted a dusty and distracted Travis Kelce as like the clear number one alpha. I don't know how true that is, but he has out-targeted him in back-to-back games. He's been elite all season. He ranks top 10 in yards per route run. All other Chiefs wide receivers rank bottom 10. Still has yet to eclipse 2/3 of the team's routes in any game, but it is, trending up. And I think he's an awesome play. In this game, Kelce, you can play as sort of like a bet against a chalkier Rashee Rice. I probably won't go that route because just like back in the day, Kelce was, like a mid-range wide receiver 1. You were getting at like high-end wide receiver 2 salary and the cheat code of being a tight end. And now he's just like a good fantasy tight end. But you never know. He historically owns Buffalo.
Yeah.
Do you want to segue to Buffalo side, or you guys have any more thoughts on Kansas City?
I was just to echo your thoughts on Mahomes. With no Pacheco, I mean, they want to come out and absolutely prove they're still the beasts of the AFC. I think Mahomes is one of the strongest plays of the week. And Rashee Rice, you made the entire case for him. He's a free square on FanDuel. He's 5,300 or 6,300 over there. Beyond that, man, I mean, the only thing I'll note is Jerick McKinnon's been dealing with this groin injury for 2 weeks. He's 32. Like, he might be complete dust. And I know CH isn't good, but like there's a real chance that McKinnon's like, completely dust and limited this week with this injury.
I mean, they've been treating him like that. Like last year, he was like, okay, 35% snap share and 6 touches, but like this year it's like nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. So, I mean, I don't feel great about clicking CEH either, but like, he's 4,200 on DK. He's basically stone man. He's 55 on FanDuel. He's fine over there, but definitely better on DK. Jake, what do you think about Bill's side? Anything else on the Chiefs too?
Yeah, I just wanted to get out of the way. I absolutely love Rashee Rice. I think his median projection really doesn't take into consideration that he could post an 85% route share. And if he did post an 85% route share, I mean, you'd bump his projection by about 4 points. Like I just think he's a fantastic play in every sense. And I think it's probably a little more likely that they do bump his route share this week with no Pacheco, likely going a little more pass heavy. On the Bills side, I think Josh Allen could go a little under-owned in this game. I mean, he has as many 35-point DraftKings games over the last 3 seasons as any quarterback. This is a must-win game for Buffalo. I would imagine they've turned a little more run-heavy since they canned Dorsey. So, you could argue that's a concern, and maybe that's worth a bit of a boost to James Cook. But really, I mean, I think they're just going to put it all on Allen's shoulders. And, so for tournaments, I kind of like the idea of playing, Allen with Rashee Rice and Diggs, a stack like that. I think it's pretty compelling. Another note that I had on James Cook is he is playing a lot more inside the 10. So you could argue for him in tournaments, but I think I'm just going to be on Allen and, these Bills pitchers.
I think we've been just right on James Cook all year. Like, he's a really good player. He's really good in between the 20s, but he just hasn't had the touchdown equity. It's changed though. Last 2 games, 6-1. He's outsnapped 6-1. Murray inside the 10. XFP is way up. Last 2 games, he's averaging 17.4 XFP per game and half PPR. I mean, it's like the difference between him being like a top 8 running back and, just a flex play every single week, basically. I think Cook is really interesting. I don't think anybody's on this role change, and Chiefs can be run on. They are not a good run defense. Like, that's their one weak spot. Giving up the 5th most yards per carry and the 3rd highest success rate this season. That was my one contrarian angle in this game is Cook. I don't really know how to play it. Honestly, I think you play it with Mahomes, with Cook on the other side, but it's just like, man, it feels like I'm leaving so much upside on the table with Diggs and even Gabe Davis. I think Davis is legitimately in play. Dalton Kincaid is in play like he is every single week. We'll see on Dawson Knox. Again, I think I said at the open, he has not been moved to the active roster. I don't think it would change too much here. But, if he doesn't play, Khalil Shakir is also back in play. this week, just 3,900. He's still a little bit too cheap for Allen stacks, but not too excited about it. Scott, what do you think about Bill's side here, man?
Yeah, I think Allen is an amazing play. Definitely my second favorite GPP quarterback after Fields. He's averaging 4 more DraftKings fantasy points per game than any other quarterback. You could say the matchup's tough, but I mean, like,
it's Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly. And like he's hit 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns like every time he faces them, with a bunch of stuff on the ground. Like, that's the thing, is like, matchups matter less for elite quarterbacks, hypermobile quarterbacks. And I mean, like 2 weeks ago, AOC had a career best game. He looked good. Yep. Jordan Love ate them up last week. And so, yeah, I love me some Josh Allen. Stacking is tricky entirely due to this whole Dawson Knox thing. What should Buffalo do? They should stick with the 11 personnel. Like, I think that's smart. I think that's working. I think the 12 is like kind of limiting them. But if they do go back to the 12 personnel, that's massive for Stephon Diggs. Yep. His efficiency in 12 is like more than twice as good as it is in 11 due to lesser target competition. Gabe Davis, I think, is a legitimately great play. You just like L'Jarius Sneed is going to shadow Diggs, and like Sneed has been such a baller this year, while Kansas City's getting shredded by wide receiver 2s. 22 to Christian Kirk, 15 to Allen Lazard, 18 to Jordan Addison, 133 yards to Josh Palmer, 99 yards to Devonta Smith, 20 to Jacoby Myers, and then 28 to Christian Watson, who is a wide receiver 1, but weirdly, the Chiefs chose to shadow Romeo Doubs, which didn't make sense. So I like him as a contrarian play. And then who was the other wide receiver we were talking about?
Shakir.
Oh, Khalil Shakir. Yeah. So if I knew they would stick to 11 personnel, he's an amazing play, amazing coverage shell matchup. He's been like really involved. He's shown a ceiling. He shreds these 2 high coverage shells Kansas City deploys at one of the highest rates in the league. But there's just so much uncertainty with Dawson Knox back. Like, they've been playing 0-12. And if they go back to just like half of what their previous rates were, it really crushes Khalil Shakir. So that just makes it tricky.
Yeah. 3,900 DK. He's just 5,500 over on FanDuel. So again, if Knox is out, I was on Shakir a couple weeks ago. Over on FanDuel, his prices now come down out of their buy. Really strong over there. Fun game, man. Obviously, playing this game, you're just stacking up all the pieces, and I think Rashee Rice is just basically a must for us this week. With that said, should we make a lineup with Rashee Rice?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, we are playing around in the fantasy points optimizer. Going to make a lineup here. As always, we're kind of shooting for more of a large field, really large number of entries type of build. That in mind, I'm just going to go ahead and pick Rashee. All on him, and let's do running back real quick too. I think we're all on Bijan, we're all on Moss. Do that out quick.
Yeah, I think those guys are fine. Do we want to pay up at quarterback and go with Allen? Because we would probably need to go a little cheaper at running back if we do. We can do whatever we want at running back, though, if we roll with a Dobbs team, most likely, I would figure.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, Dobbs is so cheap. We do have to play Jefferson with him, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're probably playing Diggs with Allen, so.
Yeah, fair. Scott loves Allen. I mean, especially if he's going to be a little lower owned. Let's do it. Let's do an Allen, Rashee, and Diggs team. All right.
I might rather play Gabe, honestly.
Okay, that's cool.
And Diggs?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's honestly, man. I like Gabe this week too.
Because what happened? What happened either the last or the second to last time the Bills played the Chiefs?
I think he had like 1 million yards and 1 million touchdowns. Isn't that right?
Right.
He's only 5,800. I mean, the entire theory is like this game goes off Gabe is, just a part of it, and Allen throws for 2 touchdowns and Gabe gets one of them. I like that a lot, especially over on FanDuel. Gabe is not going to catch any ownership this week. I was just looking at that. He's 6,800 over there. All right, so we've got Allen with Gabe and Rasheed. I'm going to lock in Bajan at running back.
We're definitely not worried about ownership here, so Zach Moss is more than fine.
Yep. Falcons D, they're just 2,900. Probably not going to bring it back with a buck. I'm just going to put them in for now. We got to go up, probably at receiver, right?
Yeah.
Did we lock in DJ Moore already?
Oh, what was I thinking? Okay, sorry. We could do a little mini game stack with Amon-Ra. We got to go up, like I said. Let's see if we can do it. Nope, not feasible. All right. What is feasible? Let's see. We got Allen, Bajan, Moss, DJ Moore with Rasheed Rice and Gabe. Game stacked. Kylan Granson at tight end. What the hell? That's a name I haven't heard in a long, long time. Why is Kylan Granson popping? Interesting. Let's put in likely. Or wait, no, Brevin. Right. We'll throw in Brevin. Ooh, Alexander Madison, baby. Yeah, let's go. All right. Don't play Alexander Madison. Find a better play in the flex spot at 6,100. That's going to do it, guys. Great show. As always, lots of good info. Scott, you'll be on with Neil Orfield tomorrow afternoon. Your article will post early in the morning. Are you going to be on with Johnny on Sunday?
Oh,
you're muted, sir. It hit again.
What a jackass.
Books,
Sunday
dude,
morning
books,
with Johnny, yeah.
Nice. The books need to offer Scott muted lines and then Scott muted 2X lines. It's like you can bet the 2 touchdowns that are always sucker bets.
Scott muted in the last 10% of the show seems to hit.
Yeah.
Like the final 10 or 15 minutes, he gets real lazy with it.
Fair point. So second half mutes. That's the call.
Minus 4,000.
Hey, if any of our subs want to gamble a subscription on it, and I'll just never mute again.
Yeah. All right. For Scott, for Jake, for Tom Tipple behind the glass, I'm Graham. Good luck this week, guys.